You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
I had a great weekend. I was in humble Van Meter, Iowa for the Van Meter Visitor Festival. And I got to hang out with all kinds of cool people and friends of mine that I had never met in real life before. And it was just a really, really great experience. And it was, it's kind of almost the exact opposite of my experience at Mothman Festival. Now, Mothman Festival is a lot of fun. You know, nobody grabbed their fucking pitchforks and torches or anything. But it was a lot. And the Van Meter Visitor Festival, on the other hand, is very speaker focused. It's less of the festival atmosphere. You know, it's not a bunch of like Gen Z folk in cosplay or anything.
Right.
Again, nothing wrong with that, guys. It's okay. You know, nobody's saying it's not. I'm just saying this is a different experience. It's kind of more my speed in that it is more focused on the phenomena and the speakers presenting various phenomena and stuff like that. So I really, really enjoyed it. I got to hang out with Chad Lewis and David Weatherly, and that's always a great time. Steve Berg was there. Nash Hoover was there. All kinds of folks that I know I'm forgetting, and that bugs the crap out of me, but I will totally think of it. So everything about it was... the guys from Creepy Acres were there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that was super fun. Yeah, Sean and Chad, great guys. That was super fun to hang out with them as well. Because I got to tell you, if you've never hung out with them, they're a lot of fun to hang out with. They're excellent conversationalists. Very sharp wits. So, tons of fun. But yeah, there's a lot of really entertaining people. A lot of my friends, again, that I just hadn't been able to see in a while, or in some cases had never been able to see in real life. And it's just kind of the relaxing research trip that I needed to recover from the Mothman Festival. Because again, this was further research for the Mothman book that Richard and I are working on. So we wanted to include other sort of, you know, regional winged humanoid or winged creature sightings. I mean, whether or not you consider the Van Meter Visitor a winged humanoid is up for debate, probably, because nobody can seem to agree exactly what it's supposed to look like. So who knows? But yeah, no, it was absolutely great. So how was your weekend?
Oh, Jesus.
Not as great?
It was not as great. It wasn't as bad, but it wasn't as great. We had a hurricane in Ohio. It was great. Hurricane Helene, with her tropical depression, which, if I make one more joke about that, I think my daughter is going to throttle me. So I won't. But anyway, so we got hit with basically hurricane level winds, which knocked out the power to, it doesn't matter how many people, too many people. I was one of them. It was great. So I got to have a 24-hour power outage, which was a lot of fun. And
Sounds like fun.
It was so much fun. I still have to restock my fridge, you know, things like that. It was great. So the whole weekend was very up in the air because it was kind of this weird, like, uncertainty, right? It was a very strange liminal space. And I'm not going to complain that much because Hurricane Helene has been fucking ferocious on other parts of the country, and it is absolutely devastating. And if you, listener, can help those people in any way, you absolutely should. whether that be sharing social media posts with resources for people or making donations to local organizations. That's awesome. But what I saw happen in my community, my local community here, is that in the face of devastation, um, people really came together, and that was really amazing. We had a lot of like local businesses that were doing free meals or just, opening up their businesses with power for people to just charge their phones, or local restaurants, letting people come in and fill up their coolers with ice, or, just like I said, just a lot of community was involved. And that was a stark contrast to everything that had happened. And that was really great. Of course, I had my own silly set of circumstances involved with everything. Because I didn't have power, I didn't spend a lot of time at home. I spent a lot of time in my car while driving around after storm devastation is not a great idea, because I ended up having tire issues,
Yeah, that'll do it.
which have been resolved. That was not fun. And different things like that. But we ended up getting the power back on Saturday. We kind of just stayed around with uncertainty because we kind of had rolling power outages, and even today we're still not. I mean, that's still happening. So if it goes out, I have a mini panic attack. Because I did go to the grocery Saturday night, and like, oh my god. But it's okay. So Sunday, I went and saw a movie with my kid, and we went and saw the Wild Robots, which going and seeing a movie was like my goal for the weekend, because I just needed to get the fuck away from everything that was going on. And the movie theaters all have power, so.
Nice.
But it was a great opportunity, for what it's worth, for people that don't go to the movie. And I do go to the movies. We talk about movies on the show. For people that don't go to the movies, man, if you are having a time, let me tell you, that's the perfect time to go to the movies, because you're forced to get away from your home. You're forced to get away from your problems and just go sit and focus on something else for a set amount of time. And it will fucking recharge your mood instantly. It's a great way to do that. And then, once you come back, you kind of feel a little more refreshed. You feel a little more like you can handle your situation, which is how I felt after I saw The Wild Robot. Let me tell you, The Wild Robot was a great movie. It was fucking fantastic. Yes, it's a kid's movie. Kind of interesting contrast, because it shows a lot of animals being killed. Like, a lot of them. I mean, it's about a robot that gets stuck on, basically a deserted island. It's not deserted; it's filled with animals, and it integrates into the society there. But one of the main themes of it is how cruel they kind of all are to each other. And I mean, when I say like animal killings, I mean at one point an animal comes and like chomps a bird, and the bird's head flies off its body, and the robot catches the severed head in its hand. Like,
All right.
hardcore for a kids film.
That's what kids' movies used to be like, though. Like Bambi's mom dies in like the first 10 minutes of that movie.
Right. Devastating. You don't see that anymore. It was just, it was fine, but it was surprising. My kid's fine. She enjoyed it.
Sure.
But
She's
it was,
seen worse.
Right, exactly. And it was really shocking. I was like, okay, but very good movie. Good. It's good for everybody. Go see it. Especially again, if you're in a space, man, go see a kid's movie. It's fine. You can be an adult watching a kid's film. People don't care. Nobody cares. What are they doing? They're supposed to be there watching the movie, not paying attention to you. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And I just really haven't done much else. And this has been my first day of normalcy. So thank God for the podcast. We almost didn't record this week, for one, because of no power. But you had asked me, hey, are we gonna? And I thought about it. I thought about not recording. But
nobody would have blamed you under the circumstances.
I just felt like I needed it. So I thought that it would help to keep a routine, and it has. So I'm glad that we are here doing the thing.
Good. I'm glad we're here too.
So that was my weekends. With that being said, I don't really I don't have any news because I was doing other stuff.
Sure. I have a news. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to, I'll use my news time to push some things. How about that to market to you guys? I know you love spending money. Who doesn't love to spend money? Um, but let me tell you, a great way that you could spend your money is by going to patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk and signing up as a patron. Tobias, you posted a bunch of cool stuff over there, some raw footage from the TNT area. Um, we are working on, all three of us will be posting our top Halloween movies here for the spooky season coming up. Great time for that. And right now, if we can get 5 people in our uppermost tier, so that is the highest tier that we have available. If we get 5 of them, we are going to be doing a monthly book giveaway. So that's the goal. That's your incentive to want to sign up. Why wouldn't you want to anyway? Again, I know you love to spend your money, so spend it on us. We would appreciate that.
It's true. We really would appreciate that. Podcasts are laborious at times, and the equipment costs money, and time is valuable. And of course, we do this for love of the game. But anything you would be able or willing to do to support our efforts here at On Wednesdays We Talk Weird is always much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the podcast. I mean, we're both independent researchers and investigators. And let me tell you guys, that shit is very expensive.
That's true.
It costs money to get to the Mothman Festival. I mean, even just that, right? It's fun, but like it costs you a pretty penny to go spend the weekend there.
Oh, yeah. No, like my entire book advance has been blown on research, and probably then some. So
it's, this research is very expensive, and we're not the type to ask you to pay for it ahead of time, because guess what? We're going to do it anyway. Whether you give us your money or not, we're going to do it anyway. Let's be honest. But it'd be nice if, if it could pay for itself.
Yeah, for real.
So anyway, I'm done shilling. Go ahead, Tobias, with your news.
That was some quality shilling, though, honestly.
Thank you.
All right. I do have one news. Now, I have been, obviously pretty busy, but I didn't manage to get an article out the week of Mothman. And so I wanted to make sure I got one out the week of Van Meter. And so I ended up doing another entry into good old Reports from the Void. So again, for anybody who's not familiar with that series, Reports from the Void is a repository to share those stories for which we do not have enough information to make a full report. This is usually because of little or no communication from the witness following their initial submission. Singular Fortean Society and On Wednesdays We Talk Weird will always provide as much information as possible regarding any correspondence during our attempts to speak with those involved. I cannot stress this last part enough. This series is meant only to present you with the full breadth of the information sent to us and makes no judgments towards the veracity of any stories shared within it. So, the thing about this is a lot of these reports, I think, sound credible. And the real shame of it is, I think that if I was able to follow up with most of these witnesses, like actually really interview them and be able to dig into a lot of these details, I think they would turn into some very interesting reports. And this one is kind of one of those. So this is from an email originally received March 3rd, 2024, that was entitled Urgent. Urgent is in all caps here, of course. Experience in Lebanon Hills, 3/2/24. So this person had their weird experience on March 2nd, 2024, reached out to us the next day to tell us about it. Now, the email itself is very long. So, of course, for the full email, if you want to read it, just go to singularfortean.com. You can find it in the news section. But I'm going to summarize it here. So this came from a woman who wanted to talk about an experience she had with her 14-year-old daughter. So they were out walking in the woods with their dog when they experienced some real weird stuff. Now, again, this was Lebanon Hills. She didn't specify but I'm going to guess that, well, based on context, I'm going to assume, rather, that this is Lebanon Hills Regional Park, which is just south of Minneapolis. It's kind of, well, it's in the Minneapolis St. Paul metropolitan area. It's kind of on the southern border of Egan. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I always get Minnesota names wrong, and then people get mad at me. So sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your weird names. Anyway, so she's out in the woods with her daughter, and the first thing that happens is they come across some weird looking burnt logs that look like they had been deliberately placed in a circle with a giant one in the middle. And their assumption then, after seeing them, was that they had been used for some ritual and potentially burned over and over again. Now, they don't get into a lot of detail about any sort of speculations as to what kind of ritual or anything, but we can assume nefarious. I don't know. People don't get weirded out by, good rituals usually, right? Anyway.
I mean, I don't know about that, but
Yeah. Yeah, right. I don't know where her biases lie. That's true. Like she could just hate everything. Anyway, so after that, they see these logs and assume they're for being burnt for some, and then placed deliberately for some ritual purpose, which may or may not be nefarious, based exclusively on this witness's bias that we do not know. Okay. So after that, then they find these man-made looking huts in some of the area that were made of brush, sticks, logs, and vines. And in every one of these, again, ritualistic looking circles, there was green grass growing underneath them, and everything else was nothing but dead from the winter and pine needles outside of it, she said. So at this point, they're pretty creeped out. And she described the air as feeling very heavy, like there was a weird energy to it. And they started to feel like they were being watched, but they didn't hear anything except for the wind. So they walk a little bit further and decided to turn around since it was almost 5 and dusk was approaching. They didn't want to be caught out after dark, especially considering they were getting creeped out having found all this weird stuff. So they turn around to go back, and that's when the dog starts to act strangely. Now, the dog refuses to go back. He digs his paws in and pulled back his tail straight down, not wanting to continue back the way they had come. And so she says that she has recorded this on video, which, of course, again, I wasn't able to see, unfortunately. But she stressed that he's not the type of dog to ever do this kind of thing. He's normally a very obedient dog, doesn't necessarily spook easily. So eventually she's able to coerce him, and they were able to go back the way that they came. And as they're walking back, they started hearing what sounded like logs banging against each other across this pond. And so they stop and sort of look around to see if they can find what's making this noise, and they can't. And all of a sudden, as that's happening, they felt a really icy cold chill surround them. Like the air suddenly got very cold. And so she decides to joke with her daughter and say, well, oh, it's Bigfoot, we better start running, because what do? You don't want to freak your kid out any more than they already are. So she's trying to lighten the mood here. And they start walking faster, and that's when they hear this weird howling scream. So they heard the log banging a few more times the closer they got back to the main path, and that howling scream, and it freaked them out. Well, at least that's what she said. She said it freaked us out because it sounded like what a Bigfoot would sound like, or just some type of creature. So at this point, they've determined that whatever they heard definitely didn't sound human, and it didn't sound like any animal they were able to identify. Her daughter, for what it's worth, at the time felt very dizzy all of a sudden, And again, like the whole time, they feel like they're being watched. So she didn't know anything about the park. She's relatively new to the area, she said. So she went to Google, found us basically, and decided to reach out. And so, as always happens with these reports from the void, I reached out. I didn't get any response, unfortunately, because I really do think this is a very interesting account, and I would have loved to speak with this witness and get more details, because it reads as an authentic experience, at least insofar as something happened to these people that they can't explain, and that's all it takes for me to be interested, frankly. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. What's interesting about the area, though, is, of course, I looked into Lebanon Hills a little bit. So, assuming they're talking about Lebanon Hills Regional Park there in the Minneapolis metropolitan area, it's a very developed area. There aren't a lot of Bigfoot sightings there. So the park itself is in Dakota County. If you go to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website, they've got 79 sightings that they've collected from Minnesota. None of them are from Dakota County. The nearest sightings reported to the BFRO are from a man who said he saw a large bipedal creature while bow hunting in Washington County, Minnesota in 1972. So that was a long time ago. And a man who said he drove past a 7 to 8 foot tall hairy humanoid in St. Croix County, Wisconsin in 1995. And so these are a couple of adjacent counties to Dakota, and they are in more, rural areas than Lebanon Hills. So, but eerie unexplained howls are not unheard of. This has been a thing in cryptozoology for some time now. We've covered several at the Singular Fortean Society. They seemed like they were having a moment in like 2019 and 2020, because that's when most of the eerie howls that I've reported on come from. But yeah, there are, several compelling examples of people recording them even. So who knows? Could be something to it. But anyway, I've been talking for a long time. So thoughts?
I just do you personally think that there's some tie between this strange ritual setup and this creature? I mean, I guess that's what the implication is here, right?
I don't know. That's another thing that I would have loved to ask this witness. Again, like, I was joking before, but I don't know really what she believed about the ritual setup that she had seen. I don't know what her opinions on the occult are. I don't know what her opinions on, magic or witchcraft or any of that stuff is. So, on the one hand, yeah, you might have a very, say, conservative Christian person who would look at any form of occultism, even something that we might see as relatively benign, like contacting some kind of nature spirit or performing some kind of blessing or something, and interpret that as being demonic or evil, right? Or you could have somebody who is more sort of new age or open-minded or something, who would recognize something like that, and to them that would be no big deal, or it would be seen as very positive. But without speaking to the witness, we just have no idea. And so she didn't really mention specifically any causal connection, so much as I think that it was just a weird thing that happened that day, and so she included it. But who knows? I mean, she might think there's a connection. I couldn't tell you.
No. I mean, I think obviously she thinks there's a connection, because she mentioned it, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I maybe that's not obvious. I don't know. Some people do think that. Some people think that this stuff is tied to demons, and while I
Or
disagree
maybe,
with them,
yeah.
you know,
So you're
some
saying
people.
Bigfoot isn't a demon?
Well, I've never met one, right? So I can't say that for sure.
Right.
But now, when I meet Bigfoot, I have two questions for him. One, what's your dick look like? Two, are you
Okay.
a demon?
Those are very personal questions. Honestly, just Bigfoot's just like, wow, rude and mean. What is wrong with you, lady? Just storms off. Um, but but yeah, I don't think it has to be demonic either. Some people have talked about Bigfoot as sort of nature spirit or manifestation, sort of along those lines, right? Or even
Guardians?
even
Yeah.
even if it's like the somehow the manifestation of the human archetype of the wild man or something like that doesn't mean it's necessarily evil. It's not demonic per se. So it doesn't have to be interpreted that way. But again, like there is a sect of humanity that would. So I get it.
Well, let me ask you, Tobias. How many times have you been on an investigation somewhere and you've been talking to the town folk and they have mentioned the satanic cults in the area that you're going to investigate?
That has been a popular urban legend since I was a kid. Like every town has
Everywhere.
a satanic cult.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
always mutilating cattle or stealing dogs or cats or something. And
Yeah.
nobody ever seems to have a good record of that literally happening. But everybody has a story about how they're sure it does happen.
Yeah. It is. No, it is everywhere. And let me tell you, I'm really disappointed I haven't come across a satanic cult yet. If you guys
Yeah.
know personally where I can find one, I'm happy to go look for them. But to this day, we did find a dead cat once, but
Aw.
which was devastating in and of itself. But cats are very ballsy. So-
Well, they get out, and there's all
and they
kinds of
die.
dangerous stuff for cats, which
Yeah.
is why you shouldn't let your cats outside, by the way,
Yeah.
everybody. So
Yeah.
stop doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's sad. But yeah, there's tons of stuff that'll kill a cat. Anything from accidents to disease to predators. That's why
Old
you shouldn't
age,
let them
who
outside.
knows, right? Who knows why that cat? It wasn't mutilated or anything. It was just dead.
Yeah,
Um, but you get a group of teenagers, and they've grown up with these stories of satanic cults, practicing animal sacrifice, and then they go out in the woods and they see a dead cat. They want to believe that it was a satanic cult that did it. Anyway, I'm not saying
yeah.
that that's what she's saying here, but
Oh, sure. No, I get it. Well, I mean,
um,
and this you're right. This is sad. Like we never ever find the satanic cult. So now we've got no satanic cults.
right?
We've got no vampires in Ohio.
No,
That's a huge bummer.
yeah, oh yeah.
This is
Still haven't
the
found one.
worst.
I've looked, the hurricane came through and didn't wash up any. It's devastating that I gotta stop using that word. I've used it a lot today.
Right.
A lot of devastation going on lately.
There's been a lot of devastation going on lately. That's just accurate.
I'll just say instead of let's say that it's disappointing. That there we go.
It
That's a
is.
better word. But yeah, it doesn't happen anyway. I just bring that up because it is kind of a tropey thing, in
Mhm.
this community, or at least it can be, to have
Oh yeah. Just
some
in
type
general,
of
it is.
ritual magic. As far as like the sighting itself, or I shouldn't say sighting, but the encounter
Experience. Sure.
experience. There we go. For whatever this may be. Who knows? I'm not familiar with the wildlife in that area. Do you guys have cougars in that area?
Yes. There are mountain lions. I think it would be unusual maybe for one to be in that area considering how urban it is, but not impossible. So yeah, I mean I think that there are, and this has always been the argument for those eerie howls. Like there are animals that can make weird noises,
Yeah.
anything from like elk to foxes to mountain lions or cougars, whatever you want to call them. I feel weird about using the word cougar now because it's been co-opted for like sexy older ladies, and so now I'm a married man. I can't be saying words like cougar.
the,
I just say mountain lion.
the cougars are out in the woods, like, hey, handsome.
Right. I think that one just winked at me. Just hold up my hand with my wedding ring on it. Sorry, ladies.
It's never stopped me before.
Ah, dangerous territory.
Gross.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so anyway, but okay, let me just say this: we're not here to sex shame cougars. You know,
Oh,
go
no,
get it,
yeah.
ladies. Like
Right.
that's great. We're
Seriously.
all rooting for you. It's just I'm married and now I feel weird about it. Anyway, so yeah, so there are animals like mountain lions, foxes, like elk, a lot of different stuff. I think even deer can make some weird
Oh, yeah.
noises if you're not prepared. So who knows? Honestly,
Listen to animal noises. Go on YouTube. It's a lot of fun.
it is fun.
I'll tell you, I have been listening to animal noises for a long time because what do you want me to say, guys? I'm fucking weird. I mean, you get that by now. It's one of my hobbies, right? But just like maybe a year ago, I think it was Tobias. After you started the show, I encountered a squirrel outside, and
Mhm.
it's a noise I've heard a million times, but I never connected it to squirrel ever. Mostly because, like, when you're into this type of study, a lot of the noises that you really familiarize yourself with are like big animals. But man, there was a pissed off squirrel tree outside of my apartment, and it was yelling at me. It was yelling at everybody that
Yeah,
came by, and I was like, "What the fuck? That's what a squirrel sounds like?" It's really surprising.
it is.
But for some people, oh, we're in trouble. We got in trouble. It's time. It's time to move on, I guess. That's okay.
Yes, we've spent all of our time on news, and now we have to get to the actual meat and potatoes,
Yep.
the subject of today's show.
Yep. That was our stopping bell. So okay, that's fine. That's okay. I think we need to get into it anyway. Kind of rude that you would talk about food, considering the topic, meat and potatoes. But you did it. So
I did. I can't undo it.
I'm not going to go into a full trigger warning disclaimer, but here's your trigger warning disclaimer. It's going to get real gross, you guys. So if you're not into that type of thing, it's in the title of this episode, which we're calling drug-induced cannibalism. So if for whatever reason you thought that this was family friendly, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it's not. And if you're sensitive to that type of thing, go listen to something else this week, and come back next week. Thanks for hanging out with us for the news of the weekend. So,
Yes.
with that being said, Tobias, have you ever done any drugs?
Are you a cop? You have to tell me if you're a cop.
That's true. I do. No, I'm not.
Okay, then maybe.
You don't have to get into it, and that's okay. I understand if you don't want to. But I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and I don't do a lot of drugs now. But I used to back in the day,
Sure.
and I've done all kinds of stuff. But I don't think I've ever really done hard drugs personally. I guess that depends on what you consider hard drugs. I've never been an addict, and I know that's something an addict would say, but I stopped pretty quickly and haven't done them ever since. But when you do drugs and you're doing them to party, right? You're in that party mindset. It gets real interesting what you're willing to do in order to get high. And again, that does definitely sound like something an addict would say, but it's not really that so much. So back in my day, a little bit before one of the main topics we're going to talk about is kind of bath salts. I never did bath salts, but I have done gas station drugs. I guess I'll ask that. Have you ever done gas station drugs?
No, that is a weird subset of drugs, though, isn't it? Like I will say this: I have been around lots of drugs. I definitely do not do drugs. For anybody who is wondering or cares about that, I don't even drink alcohol.
Week. They're
really.
like, does
What's
Tobias
that?
Whalen do drugs? Every week I get a message about it. And I'm
Well,
like,
you can tell them I don't. So
I don't think he does. That's just all
I don't.
him.
Yeah, no, I'm just like this. I can't even help it. So, which is mean, guys. You don't have to make fun of me.
Nobody's ever
Anyway,
asked.
right.
Actually,
But
they send me a bunch of nerd shit. They'll send me like D&D stuff, and they'll be like, Tobias would love this.
I would. I love those guys.
I'm like, go tell him.
They should. Just tell me. Yeah. Is it cool? Because I want to see it.
Usually, yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah.
Anyway.
If you got any cool nerd shit, send it over. Send it my way. That's what I'm looking for. No, I have been I have been around a lot of drugs in my day, and I know that sounds weird, but I feel like there was a time in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff where that stuff was just around, and you'd be at parties and it would just be around, I probably felt a certain kind of way about it, but it is what it is. But no, I feel like I missed the boat on gas station drugs because I think I was too old by the time those were a thing for anybody to be taking them and like using them anywhere where I would see, like anywhere where I would be exposed to that. So
I think that, well, I mean, I know these gas station drugs kind of ebb and flow. Like, there's always something new, and some of them will kind of go back into rotation. So, like, when I was a teenager, gas station drugs would be like whippets, right?
oh, okay. If we're counting whippets, and yeah, I've seen a ton of people do whippets.
You know what I mean? It's like stuff that you get, Robitussin, right? Robo tripping, like that's over the
Yeah.
counter. You can buy. It's not
Okay.
really just gas station, but like
Sure. Okay.
um,
Yeah.
things that you can get your hands. You can get pretty drunk off of hand sanitizer and mouthwash, I guess.
Gross.
I don't recommend any of these drugs to people, and there's a good reason for it. And we'll kind of, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. But during my time, have I ever done gas station drugs? The one thing was really popular. I don't remember what it was. K2 though. I smoked K2. That was terrible. Everybody's like, it's just pot, and it doesn't show up on drug tests. And I'm like, really? And then you fucking take one hit off of it, and you're on the moon, and not in a good way. It's the dark side of the moon.
Oh no. So you just end up on Hell Moon.
It was hell on Hell Moon. Yes, that would be it. That would make a great horror movie.
I'd watch the shit out of something called Hell Moon.
Right. somebody make this Hell Moon. Anyway, and you have to get there by smoking K2. Yeah, so I've done that, and I didn't have a good time, and just kind of decided I was never going to do it again. I don't know what explicitly made me not go for bath salts, because that was also like that time period, like that same time. When we had K2, we also had the bath salts. Now they're called bath salts because they are advertised as bath salts at the gas stations. They're these little crystals, right? You know what bath salts are. You put them in your bath, and it's
Sure.
nice and relaxing.
Yeah,
But this
pour
is
yourself
not
a glass of wine, light some candles.
Yeah, right. And put on some light music, or maybe your favorite podcast on Wednesdays. We
Yeah.
talk weird.
Grab a book. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. And just kick back. Bath salts are nice and relaxing. Well, this wasn't that. This was something to get you high. And
Right. This was bath salts that make your brain crazy.
yes. And for whatever reason, during like the height of the bath salts craze, and I think it's also because of the growth of social media. We had cannibals happen too, and not just cannibals. It would be pretty simple for you to get on social media and see a video of somebody acting absolutely fucking unhinged in the wild, right? Homeless people or whatever. I mean, you would see these videos of people that are just acting out of their mind, and everybody was just like, oh, they're high on bath salts. Like, that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
And this kind of really boomed in popularity with a very particular case, which had a lot of people really freaked out. And it's kind of understandable why. So let's kind of get into that a little bit. So on May 26, 2012, a gentleman by the name of Rudy Eugene drove to Miami Beach to attend the Urban Beach Week event that was there. Rudy was there for about 30 minutes before he started walking along the MacArthur Causeway, which is a highway, essentially, and stripping himself along the way as he continues to make his trek, 3-mile trek, mind you, all the way down to where he was getting to go. Well, eventually he gets where he's getting to go, and this is within the presence of a homeless man by the name of Ronald Popo. Now, Ronald and Rudy, which would make a great, like, that would be a great buddy sitcom if one didn't eat the other guy's face off. But
I mean,
wouldn't you watch
yeah.
Ronald and Rudy,
Yeah, I dare to dream. Yeah, if that was the world we lived in, but we live in this one instead.
So anyway, they they didn't know each other, but they did know each other. So like a lot of the headlines at the time when this event happened was like that, they was unrelated to each other. They'd know one another.
Right.
I guess Rudy had put in some hours at the local soup kitchen, and Ronald had, attended the soup kitchen, and maybe they had known each other that way. I don't think they were ever personal with one another. At least that's what Ronald would eventually say. So Rudy encounters Ronald and was initially very friendly with him until all of a sudden he wasn't. Rudy started accusing Ronald of stealing his Bible. And you can't do that to a man. So,
You don't steal a man's Bible.
you don't touch his Bible. Even though this guy was stark fucking naked in the middle of Miami Beach.
Oh, yeah. And there's like security footage that just shows him ditching his Bible on his own. So,
Yeah, right. I mean, so, but he starts freaking out at Ronald, accusing him of stealing his Bible, and decided to start beating the shit out of him relentlessly. And, strangling him and beating him. Ronald said that he was doing like wrestling moves and like wrestling chokeholds and stuff on him,
right.
which is actually like super fucking dangerous. I know people used to practice them as kids, but like people have died from doing that. Don't do that
Oh,
to
yeah.
people.
We totally used to do that. Like where you'd play that game where you'd stand up against a wall and somebody would basically just cut off blood flow until you passed out.
Yeah.
Which is the dumbest game I can think of in hindsight. But yeah, it was totally a game that we would play. It was just a normal game. So
Yeah, that's why you didn't take drugs. You didn't need them.
yeah, right. Well, I'm neither confirming nor denying any interactions I've had with drugs. I'm just not going to get into it on this podcast.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, you just don't do that to people. There's a reason it's called professional wrestling. Right? They practice this stuff. Anyway, so he is relentlessly attacking Ronald. He also takes his pants off. He takes Ronald's pants off. Like his pants are already gone.
Yeah.
He starts taking off Ronald's pants. I don't know what the intention was there, if there was an intention.
Yeah, like that was a weird move because he's got him unconscious and then he takes his pants off and you're thinking, okay, well, this is going to turn into a sexual assault or something.
Right.
And
you hear the deliverance banjo, you're like, uh-oh.
Well, something. But, well, and this is one of those rare cases where you're like, you know what? That probably would have been better.
Oof, I know, right? It is terrible. So he takes his pants off and then starts chomping at his face.
Yuck.
So this is all happening in broad daylight. It is being recorded. So there is footage of kind of what's happening. They're kind of half covered up a little bit. But people are concerned about what the fuck is going on. There's two men. One's completely naked. One's got his pants off. One's eating the guy's face off. So of course they call the police. That's the right move. So while Rudy is, chomping at the face and gouging out the eyes and just going to town on this guy's face, the police show up and, they're like, hey, knock it off over there.
Well, it was a little more serious than that. Like Officer Jose Ramirez arrives and, he is shocked at what he's seeing. I think they prepare you for a lot when you're a police officer, but nothing can prepare you for something like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, of course, immediately he warns Eugene to stop eating that guy's face,
Yeah,
but
he's
he
like,
doesn't.
I'm gonna shoot you if you don't, And I just So second disclaimer here, guys. I'm gonna use a lot of humor because this shit is so dark. You have to.
Of course.
It's
we recognize how serious this is.
Right. It's not to be insensitive, to the topics. It's just that you got to cope, right? So anyway, so the officer does warn Rudy Eugene to stop what he's doing. I'm gonna shoot you if you don't. Rudy growls at the police officer and continues his assault on Ronald Popo until eventually they shot him. They shot him one time, and it didn't stop him.
Yeah.
He was
He
ravenous.
just kept eating the guy's face. So then he had to shoot him 4 more times until he died.
Yeah, and so they had to shoot him to death in order to get him off. Now, of course, Ronald was rushed to local area hospital. He had 75 to 80% of his face eaten off.
That is awful. Okay, you know how I feel about chimp attacks.
That's yeah. I was gonna mention it.
And that's basically what this is. Like,
it is.
This dude chimp attacked another human being.
Yeah.
And just like bit his face off. Like, oh God, like he's permanently blind now. Of course he's disfigured. You can't have your face bit off and just bounce back from that. Just horrific circumstances for this poor man who did literally nothing wrong. I feel like his only, quote unquote crime here was being an unhoused person. And so he was an available victim for this guy.
Right.
He did nothing to like put himself in this position. He wasn't willingly interacting with this man. Like, he was just minding his business, and dude came up to him stark naked, super crazy, looking to eat somebody's face.
Yeah. The only saving grace is I believe Ronald Papa was unconscious during the physical assault on his face.
He was. Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, the only reason that it was able to happen.
Yeah. Right. He was,
because he got choked out to unconsciousness first.
So if there's any silver lining here, thank God for that.
Yeah, right.
It did end up eventually ending his homelessness and stuff. His family stepped up and started taking care of him, but it's really shitty that it had to come to that to get help from your own family. But okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, what kind of bullshit dystopia do we live in, where somebody has to have their face fucking eaten before society gives a shit about what's happening to them?
Right.
Like, that is beyond fucked.
Yeah. It really is. But Ronald did survive the attack. He did. He's a little worse for the wear, but he's alive, and Rudy is not. So before we get to the evidence that was found there, the news is going absolutely crazy with this story. They are talking about a zombie in Miami. They are talking about bath salts being the cause. Bath salts create zombies, and did in this case, and they're super dangerous, and we need to get them off the market immediately.
What's interesting about that is this. Okay, society's reaction to this situation had been building up in terms of manufactured panic about bath salts for like a year. Yeah. Because there were a couple of big articles. Like, there was a New York Times article that came out in 2011 about bath salts, and it described them as, this sort of like amphetamine-like substance that can also cause hallucinations and agitation and all this stuff. And, there was an article in Time in 2011. So like, these huge national publications are beginning this sort of like moral panic about bath salts and how dangerous they are. And then this shit happens, and they're like linked immediately. And people are like, oh, yep, see, I told you, bath salts, like, I told you they were dangerous. I told you they make people do crazy shit.
Well, and that's why I mentioned like the, getting on social media and finding any type of video of an unhinged individual being called bath salts. I mean, it was just kind of an easy excuse for everything.
Right.
So it was definitely the perfect cocktail for this to explode. It's certainly not the only instance that we're going to talk about today. And it's not the only instance, period. But man, this caught on like wildfire, and everybody was talking about it. I remember when this happened, and everybody was talking about it. I think it would have been cooler had we just left it at zombie, right? And maybe Ronald now would be a zombie. I guess that's kind of insensitive to say about a victim at the time, but
I mean, yeah, that was going around though. Like, certainly, I think the people I knew were talking more about sort of zombie apocalypse and Yeah, what if this is the beginning of the outbreak? Which, yes, obviously, in hindsight, is extremely insensitive, considering that there is this surviving victim who
Hmm.
is permanently disfigured as a result of this vicious attack. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to cover it, you got to cover it. And absolutely, that kind of talk was going around, and it was very popular on social media. So
Yeah. Well, and, just the different aspects of it, right? The growling at the police officers, and obviously the eating the man's face, and the, one shot didn't deter him. I mean, all of those things were just, it made for great media at the time. At least that's
oh
what the
yeah,
media outlets thought. And so they spread it around, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's bath salts." What you didn't hear, here's what you did not hear about. You didn't hear the toxicology report of Rudy Eugene. I guarantee you that, unless you went out of your way to look for it. That news did not spread so quickly because the media had their story, and that's what it was, right? Oh, it's bath salts, that's what happened, and we're done. But that wasn't the end of it. So when the toxicology report and the autopsy came back on Rudy Eugene, they had only found trace amounts of marijuana in his toxicology. They did also find 4 undigested, let me say that again, 4 undigested, unidentified pills. The undigested part is the very important part here. Well, let me say, bath salts are not pills. That doesn't mean that you can't find strange and unusual drugs in pill form. There is always
sure.
something out there. But whatever this was, whatever happened, it's about 98% unlikely that whatever Rudy Eugene experienced to make him act the way he did was not the cause of those pills, because they were, guess what? Undigested.
But what if he had taken other pills that were digested, and
Then
these were just the ones that had not digested yet?
he definitely could have taken other pills that were undigested. But whatever it was, it didn't show up on a toxicology report. And this kind of, there was like a fight between like the medical examiner and the police doing the investigation, because the police were like, okay, well then obviously he had some unidentified drug in his body,
Right.
to have caused this. And the medical examiner was like, yeah, but like we know our shit. Like we're not stupid. I mean, we know what we're doing. We know to
Sure.
test for things like that. And we didn't find it. And so, it's kind of up in the air exactly what might have caused Rudy Eugene to act this way. I'm not going to go into his criminal history or anything like that. It really doesn't matter.
It's not relevant to the face eating. No.
It's not. None of it. He's never done anything like this before.
No. Yeah, right. Well, he did have a history of eating faces. Do you think that's relevant?
Yeah, right. He left his house that day and was like, I sure would like to eat a man's face today.
I've eaten like 10 faces, but I could eat another face.
I could go for another. It's time. Yeah, he was pregnant. He was craving face. Just whatever ridiculous thing you want to insert there. But yeah, this was very unusual behavior. But it's pretty good chances that it wasn't bath salts, because they could have tested for that, and they did, and it didn't show up. Whatever it was. So, yeah. So that basically, I don't have anything else to say about the Miami cannibal case.
So what I'm hearing is that there is a conspiracy to cover up that this was bath salts.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And it's because the U.S. government thinks that it would be easier, both sides think that it would be easier to take bath salts and put it in rotation and turn people into zombies. That way they're more compliant when they round everybody up and put them in FEMA camps.
Bam, done. We nailed it. You heard it here first, Patriots.
It's coming, right? We all know it's coming. It's only been like 50 years since we've been saying that, but it's still coming.
Yes. Now I'd like to sell you some colloidal silver.
But again, there are other cases where drug-induced cannibalism has been the talk of the town, and this one is interesting, and it's going to kind of take you on a little bit of a roller coaster here. So, August 15th, 2016, 4 years after the Miami face eating happened, another drug is going around, another gas station drug. It's called Flakka, which is a really stupid name for a drug.
That is a stupid name.
Have you ever heard of it?
Not really. I mean, again, I'm not up on my gas station drugs.
Get good, Tobias.
I know.
Go to your local gas station. You know which one I'm talking about. Go to that one.
We only have one, but it's got huge signs outside advertising that they sell wine, spirits, and vapes. So if there are legal gas station drugs, they probably have it.
Just go in every 6 months, be like, hey, what's the new drug? You know, they'll tell
Gotta
you.
get some Flakka.
Right, let me get some Flakka. You know, I don't really know what Flakka is necessarily. I just know it's another gas station drug. Again,
It's supposed to be the same as bath, or close to bath salts.
A lot of these drugs are very similar to each other, you know, and it just depends on what the flavor is. You know, I'll tell you right now, before I get into the next one, the current, like, trendy drug to talk about and blame things on, which is, all these drugs are fucking terrible for you. Do real drugs like an adult.
Or, I mean, hear me out. Just don't do any drugs.
You probably
I know. I'm just saying.
shouldn't really. Well, it just depends. You know, but that's a
Do
slippery
whatever you
slope.
want, but like, you don't have to do drugs.
Some drugs are like okay to do.
Ibuprofen.
You can do ibuprofen. Oh yeah. It's not great for your stomach or your kidneys, but in small doses, you should be okay.
I take ibuprofen like 2 or 3 times a year, probably.
Just as needed, right?
Yeah, I just cut loose. I'm like, I'm pretty sore. I'm going to take some ibuprofen.
As you need them. No, there's some drugs that are very, very, very safe. Marijuana is pretty much completely safe, especially buy it legally, right? Don't buy it off the streets anymore. But if you go buy it legally, it's very safe. You're going to be fine. You could even do like shrooms or acid, and that stuff is pretty damn safe. Again, as long as you know where you're getting it, like that's the problem. Like listen, if you're going to do recreational drugs, there are kits that you can buy to make sure your drugs are safe. And you fucking absolutely need to buy them. Because
that's good advice.
Fentanyl will fucking kill you. And I love you and I don't want you to die. Because if you die, you can't give me your money and listen to the show. So
that's a good point. How are you going to become a top tier Patreon subscriber and possibly win a drawing for a cool paranormal book every month,
right,
if you are 6 feet underground?
Exactly. You know, I want to hear about your cool music festivals, and I'm not going to be able to hear about them if you go and you don't test your drugs, right? You got to test your drugs. Anyway, the whole reason, I didn't say this either. I'm going to digress a little bit. The whole reason I wanted to do this episode is because of that guy walking around with his fucking head missing. We didn't talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So I was on Facebook, which is a dangerous place to be, and I saw a post that was like, check the comments about something, and I did.
Never do that.
And unless you're me, you know, then do it. But in general, you shouldn't do it. And I did check the comments, and there are photos and kind of a story about this guy walking around Nashville, Tennessee, with a good chunk of his head like straight up missing. And what I mean by this, you guys, is that you can fucking see the guy's brain. Like, and this isn't like an old injury. Well, what I found out is that it is an old injury, but it's not. I mean, it's very fresh in terms of being able to see your brain. Like, it's not healed over. And he's just fucking walking around the city of Nashville like that. And obviously, I was very concerned for this person in general, because I just find that fucking crazy that he's not in a hospital seeking medical, or just at minimum, you don't have it covered. Like, my guy, your brain does not have the powers to protect from UV radiation. Like, it's not meant to see the sun.
I mean, there's lots of reasons why you would not want your brain exposed. Yes.
So many reasons. Like, you shouldn't. And I'm just like, this guy is going to die. Like, we're seeing this guy. And there's like videos of him, and he's like very literally picking his brain, like touching it with his hands. And he's just walking around like it's normal, because for him it is normal. And he is a homeless individual, right? He on the streets of Nashville, somehow you can help this guy, fucking please do and give me some peace of mind. Not a piece of his, he doesn't have enough to give, but help him out, right? And yeah, so I saw that, and of course, guess what people were saying? Bath salts.
What? Oh God, no, yeah. I mean, the
Or
story that I had heard was really this is some combination of mental illness and refusal to accept medical treatment.
Yes.
Because he doesn't want to be in the hospital because like they won't let him smoke his cigarettes or something, which again is probably it all comes back to untreated mental illness, most likely.
Right, exactly. It's not, could he be doing drugs? Well, I mean, I guess he could be, but like this is the theme of this whole episode is untreated mental illness. Spoiler alert. But yes, in this case, there's definitely something like that. So anyway, and we had kind of teased talking about this episode for a while, so that was the whole point. But I digress. Let's talk about what happened August 15th, 2016, now that I've teased
Flocka turned somebody into a zombie, I think.
Flocka.
Is that how you pronounce it? Flocka? I think Flacca would be more fun.
With 2 Ks, Flacka?
Maybe. I'm not very cool, though, and I think we've established that.
That's what I gotta say. That's what I say to Flocka. Flock you. You flocking flocker.
Yeah, you showed that stupid word. Get out of here, word.
It's real dumb. It's a real dumb name for a drug. I wouldn't do it. It doesn't even sound cool.
It doesn't.
When you're like, oh, I'm going to do some shrooms, like, that sounds cool. You're like, oh, that person's cool. They do shrooms.
Maybe you're like that.
And then you're like, oh, I'm going to do some flocka. And they're like, well, what did you just say? Is that a dance?
Yes, everybody do the flocka.
So anyway, 19-year-old Florida man, another Florida man, Rudy was as well. Austin Haruf Austin. That's his name.
I'm gonna guess like Haruf, but we could just say Austin.
We're just gonna call him Austin because that's his name. Austin was having dinner with his family when all of a sudden he stormed off to his mother's house. Now, he had been kind of acting strangely at the dinner, but he had kind of been acting increasingly strange. And he was out to dinner with I believe his father, and I don't think his parents were together.
No.
So he's out to dinner with his dad. They kind of get into like an argument. He storms off. He goes to mom's house. When he gets to his mom's house, he starts exhibiting really strange behavior. And of course, his mom's like, what's bothering you, son? Mm-hmm. And he is clearly bothered. But when I say really strange behavior, I mean, she reports that he was drinking cooking oil at one point, which is weird.
That's just gross. Yeah.
Really gross. Yeah, that's how you get diarrhea, But that's what she said happened. And, she's like, listen, son, we got to do something about this. And she takes him back up to the restaurant with his dad. And this was not a good idea because the argument, just continued from there, ensued from there. And he storms off again, except this time, instead of going back to his mom's house, he finds a couple just fucking trying to enjoy their day at their own garage. This is John and Michelle Stevens are hanging out in their garage, and Austin comes and starts physically attacking them. And of course, because it's the theme of the episode, he eats the dude's face off, the man's face off, Mr. John Stevens. Well, the police show up, and, it ends up taking them. They had to tase him. They had to get a police dog on him. And then eventually it took the power of 4 officers on top of that to get him to stop the assault on the people. But it was too late. They died, unfortunately. They did not survive this.
Interestingly, here in this case, they chose not to use firearms. Like, they didn't use lethal force, not because it wasn't warranted, but because they were concerned about hitting the victim. So I'm curious how the circumstances were different between the 2 cases that we've discussed so far. Whereas in one, you've got one where the police officer was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking shoot this guy. I don't know what else to do. In this case, then they're like, I don't think so.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that, but yeah, we'll talk about that for a minute.
I mean, look, I will say this. In one of the cases, like the first case, I know the perpetrator was an African American gentleman.
Yep.
And I'm going to go way out on a limb. Was this second guy? Was he a white guy?
You mean Austin?
Austin? Yeah.
Austin was your quintessential white guy.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Interesting.
it's probably unrelated. I shouldn't have brought it up. It's fine.
Well, let's think about this too, though. Ronald Papo was a homeless man, the victim,
Uh-huh.
and then you got John Stevens and Michelle Stevens in their own home that they own, which are also very white people names. Just saying. I think Ronald Papo was some type of Latino something, or he might not have been. He might have just been a very tan white guy because he was homeless in Miami. But
I think just
homeless,
being considered homeless is enough usually.
But I did notice that myself. So who knows what the difference is there? I couldn't tell you. Can't quite put my finger on it. But no, they sure did everything that they could. And it does stand to question. The Stevens, they died from
They
this.
did.
Whereas Ronald Papo did live, so it's like, you got to wonder if they had used more brute force, which is another thing. That's another argument in and of itself, and it definitely gets political. When is brute force? When is that acceptable? Deadly force? When's that acceptable? I think when you're eating people's fucking faces off.
Yes. I was just going to say, I don't think it's a very controversial take to say that lethal force is called for when you're eating a fucking face.
Yeah. They probably should have shot that guy. But anyway, yeah. I didn't say that. But I did say that. It's fine.
I mean, who's going to get mad about that?
That's what I would have done.
Oh, canceled. That's it. You're done.
Right. If I came upon anybody eating somebody's fucking face off and I had a gun on me, I'm not gonna be like, hey, cut that out. I'm not even try. I'm just gonna shoot them.
Now you just wait a minute here, mister. You better knock that off post haste.
How can I help?
Yeah, right. Let's just talk this out.
Right. There's nothing we can't solve here, sir. Let me call in the fucking K9 unit first. I'm just saying, had they shot him, had these people survived, we don't know. There's no way to know that, right? But it is very suspicious. Anyway.
Yeah.
It gets crazier though. Let me tell you, it gets fucking wild. So of course, this happens and the media goes, oh my god, it's another face-eating zombie, and it's because of Flacco this time. It must have been that the first time.
Which is just a form of bath salts, so it's still bath salts.
It's just the bath salts. It's just the drugs, the gas station drugs, causing people to do this. And they are freaking out. I mean, they are running with it, and everybody's like, "See, I told you, bath salts were bad." Which, again,
yeah,
nobody's arguing that bath salts are good.
Yeah, don't do them.
Nobody thinks that. They are pretty terrible. But, in this case, Austin walks away alive, and he is not high on bath salts. Austin goes on to put in a verdict of, he goes in to plead not guilty due to reason of insanity, and he won that case. So keep that in mind, because that's going to be important when we talk about the next one. But it's also important right now. They said that he definitely had some type of devastating mental break, some type of mental condition, something going on with him psychologically that caused him to do this. Austin's initial explanation was that he was being chased by a demon. And then he would later go on to say that it was because the official reasoning behind it was because he believed he was half man and half dog.
So did like the demon do that, or did he change his story?
He was a werewolf, and werewolves are, according to a lot of people, are demons. So that's a good
Okay.
question.
No, okay, yeah. So like was he like drinking water out of a wolf track under the full moon and then the devil showed up and he became a werewolf that way?
If those
I
people
have a
would
lot
have
of
just
questions.
thrown out 13 objects, they probably would have been just fine.
It's true. He clearly wasn't baptized or
Clearly wasn't
never
bad.
would have been a werewolf in the first place.
Never would have
So,
happened. They should have called the Warrens to do the exorcism on them. They
oh
do that.
God. Okay, well,
They do those werewolf exorcisms, I hear. Or they
you
did,
lost
I
me.
guess.
You lost me at call the Warrens. That's
Um,
terrible advice.
but there was no drugs involved at all, period, at all in this case. There just
Yeah.
weren't. Like, it wasn't like they even got the drugs wrong. There was no unidentified pills. He just fucking attacked these people viciously and ate the one guy's face off. And, I mean, he kind of got away with it. I think I think he is in like a place, right? He's in like a mental asylum, which normally with crimes to that degree, you don't typically get out. But it doesn't mean that you can never get out. I don't know if he was out or
Yeah.
not. I didn't look that
It would
up.
take a long ass time usually. And look, it's not as though I disagree fundamentally with the idea that we have the ability to plead not guilty by reason of mental defect. I think that is important and we should have it. And if that passed whatever, like if that cleared whatever bar it needed to clear in the legal system for that to be the ultimate determination of this case, then that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, people who are found not guilty for that reason, if it's a double homicide, that treatment is going to last a long time.
Yeah.
It's like they don't get out in a couple of years or anything.
No.
Usually,
No, you got to make fucking absolutely certain that there's no way this could ever happen again.
right?
Basically. And so they usually don't get out.
Yes,
In America. We're not going to talk about other countries and what they do. But
sure.
it
That's none
is
of our
a
business.
hard. It is a very hard. It's a very hard verdict to obtain in America. For
Yeah.
one, when you look at people, let's talk about a cannibal, Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Like clearly that guy was fucking nuts, or he wouldn't have been eating people.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
So what insanity looks like to the court doesn't necessarily mean that's what insanity is to, like, in an ethical code, right? Just
Sure.
morally, because like clearly, like Dahmer was, like I said, not right in the head at all.
Well, I think what they're looking for is, were you capable of recognizing right from wrong under the circumstances?
Right. Yeah.
And so somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, yeah, we would all consider him sick. Of course he was, but he was capable of knowing that what he was doing was wrong. He knew it. It's just that his need for zombie love slaves overrode his recognition of the fact that what he was doing was reprehensible.
I shouldn't have laughed at that, but my God, how that's it's
I
so.
mean, that was it. That's what he wanted,
Yeah. Well, but then you have
yeah.
people like, Richard Chase, who, that guy was fucking nuts, and he didn't get an insanity verdict. And I think he might be dead now. He might be still alive, but even in like prison, he's like convinced that like the government has radios in his head and they're talking to him. I mean, he was killing people and drinking their blood because he had to replace his own blood because he thought the government was draining his blood from his body remotely. That's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I have been pretty tired lately. Do you think the government is draining my blood remotely?
They probably are. Yeah.
I knew it. Fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you should probably go drink some and
I'll see what the neighbors are up to.
I mean, come to Dayton. We got professional blood drinkers here. So
Could I be an Ohio vampire?
Tobias, you could be whatever you want to be.
That's true. I'm gonna. It's important to dream big. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be an Ohio vampire. Thank you. You've inspired me today.
You're welcome. So, it's one of those things, right? I mean, again, there was no drugs involved in this one, just some random psychosis. But it doesn't matter if it's drug induced or not, really. Clearly, the people that we're talking about today had some type of something going on with them.
Sure. Well, when it comes to
And
drugs and mental illness, it's kind of a chicken or the egg scenario anyway,
yeah,
because it's difficult to discern in many cases whether the mental illness is being caused by drugs or if drugs are being used to self-medicate a mental illness.
yes, and that is well, kind of the perfect segue into our next one, the last one I've got. Before I want to talk about kind of switch the rails up a little bit, talk about something a little different. But hey, we're going to talk about Big Lurch. Tobias, you a big Lurch fan?
You know it.
Yeah,
Like, we're talking about Lurch from the Addams Family, right?
yeah, that Lurch. We all knew he was sick, right? I mean,
That guy rules.
fucking weirdo. Big Lurch was a rapper. And it doesn't really matter now what he rapped in, or I mean, if you want to look up Big Lurch, you can look him up. His actual name was Antron Singleton, and Mr. Singleton, one night on April 9th, 2002, Big Lurch was attending a party where he was peer pressured, he says, into doing a bunch of PCP. So Big Lurch admits that, he was in a party and he liked to drink. He liked to smoke some pot. He had never really done anything like PCP before. And people at the party kept kind of feeding him cigarettes that were like dipped in PCP for him to smoke. And the very next day, it's super murky how it ended up this way. The very next day, Big Lurch was found naked, pulling his hair out, covered in blood, and barking like a dog, walking down the city streets there in California, after police had discovered the body of Tynesha Isaias? Essays? I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, probably Tanisha is just fine.
Tanisha. They had found the body of Miss Tanisha in a very bad way. Miss Tanisha, her whole chest was completely splayed open. There was a knife sticking out of her, her bones there in the middle. I can't remember what the fucking bone is called. In the middle
It was
of your
broken off in her scapula.
Yes, in her scapula. There you go. It was in her scapula.
But it's broken off. Like he broke the fucking knife.
Yeah,
how viciously he was attacking this poor woman.
Yeah, very viciously. She had bite marks all over her body. Numerous just injuries all over the place. And then, of course, police found this guy covered in blood, barking like a dog. They thought, this must be him.
Yeah, well, if the shoe fits, right?
I know. I mean, so they take Mr. Singleton in. They actually did a test of his stomach contents, which I find really interesting. I didn't know that was something they could do, but when they tested his stomach contents, they found human flesh that wasn't his.
You can pump somebody's stomach, like if they've had too much to drink, or you need to know if they ate some poor lady. Sure.
Well, because it's pieces, right? I mean, usually if you pump a stomach, isn't it liquid? I guess maybe not.
Only if your stomach's full of liquid.
Good point.
You can make people throw up.
That's true. That's true. Well, they did find his stomach contents to contain human flesh. Poor Miss Tanisha. So Mr. Singleton says that he remembers being at the party. He remembers doing a bunch of PCP and doesn't remember anything else until he woke up 2 weeks later in jail, charged with murder. So, Mr. Singleton went on to try to do the same plea that Austin did, right? Not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was denied. So
that's weird because these cases seem pretty similar.
Yeah.
What?
I think so. Yeah.
I can't put my finger on what the difference might have been that would make one insanity and one not?
I mean, but I think about it.
Hmm.
We've got Austin, we've got
Yeah.
Antron. They both start with A.
Yeah. No, that can't be it. They can't be
Yeah.
discriminating against A names.
Hmm.
Yeah. Maybe I'll think of it. I don't know.
It is weird.
I mean, it's just so obvious. Anyway.
Anyway, so he claims he doesn't remember, which is great, good for him because it sounds like it was fucking horrific.
Yeah.
The pieces that he ate, who knows? It doesn't matter what he ate. He ate a human. He ate parts of a human person and is now in prison for it for the rest of his life. He seems to think that this was some type of, or at least there's an air of people thinking that this is some type of weird conspiracy that took place. Like they kind of made him do PCP for him, maybe not anticipating that he would like murder somebody and try to eat them and then or eat them and then be in prison, but maybe they did it to like fuck with him. I don't know. The hip hop world is strange, and I believe somehow Suge Knight is involved, and when Suge Knight's involved, it's just bad. That guy's
That's
bad.
true.
Suge Knight is a bad guy. I shouldn't say that, or he's gonna come for me because he comes for people. So
Uh-oh. Okay, so I am seeing that apparently in California, drug use cannot be used as grounds for an insanity plea.
which okay, all right, we'll take that. Okay, what
So
if he was drugged though? I mean, he
yeah,
admits that
I
he
don't know.
knows, but like I'm just saying, like if people were giving you cigarettes, you didn't know they had PCP on them, like then what? You're fucked.
Oh no,
Get
I agree completely. I think that situation is fucked, and it should allow for that. But
get better friends, I guess, is what the state says.
yeah, I guess
But
they don't take that into consideration.
this one we know absolutely had some type of drug-induced psychosis to it that caused this situation to play out. It wasn't bath salts. It was
True.
PCP. And if you want to know what PCP is, I think Steve-O's got tons of videos about, showing him on fucked up on PCP, and it's scary.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do PCP.
I don't know why anybody would. Um, so I didn't have any other tales to tell. There are more. There's a
I
lot of
think those
them.
are pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, if you guys are super interested, definitely get into it. Because I wanted to have time to mention this, which kind of ties it a bit into the paranormal. Um, Wendigo psychosis.
Okay.
Have you heard of this? Wendigo
I
psychosis?
have, yeah.
You have. I know you have.
You sounded so surprised. You're like, huh, have you? I'm dubious. Very skeptical
Really?
that you have heard of this.
You sure? You don't do drugs. How do you know? I'm just kidding. No, you just spent the weekend with Chad Lewis. Of course you know.
It's
Um,
true.
you can't hang out with that guy and not know. No, Wendigo psychosis is it's recognized by psychology, but it's not. Like it isn't, and it isn't. Basically, what it is, we all know what the Wendigo is, right? It's a ravenous beast of Algonquin lore, who terrorizes the tribes in the wintertime. And in most cases, it's not a physical being; it's a spiritual being that possesses people into um, eating their own friends and family. It's a horrible thing. So kind of when white people came along, well, I mean, it's this the spiritual aspect of it's been there, but kind of as the colonizers came along into these tribes, they were seeing people that were committing cannibalism, and they kind of chalked it up to their own explanation, right? It's some type of temporary mental illness that causes you to crave people. And Wendigo psychosis has been recognized in cases where people don't just cannibalize other people, but cannibalize themselves. So it's basically an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Um, kind of reading about some of those cases, that man, that is probably a whole nother episode for a whole different day and time. But
Mm-hmm.
the cases are really interesting. There's like a case of like a gentleman who was like eating his own stomach a patient who ate their own toes. You got people that do a lot of weird shit like that, and it is,
Ugh.
yeah, it is usually a very temporary condition. I was gonna call out a movie. There's a movie like this where the girl starts like eating her own body parts. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. Oh my god. Anyway, it's good. Maybe if I think of it later. But um, is that what's happening to these people? Is this considered Wendigo psychosis? Um, I don't know. Tobias.
Well, gee,
I know I didn't prepare you for that one.
I'm looking at my doctorate in psychology on the wall there, and fuck, I don't know. I'm not qualified to say. Um, if this is something that's characterized by eating parts of yourself, then none of these people did that. If that's not necessary, then maybe.
I mean, so I guess I'll say it this way. Do you think that there is again, I know I didn't prepare you for that. I didn't warn you that I was going to talk about this ahead of time.
That's fine.
But, do you think, just whatever knowledge you have of the Wendigo in general, do you think there could be some type of supernatural or paranormal aspect to these random bouts of cannibalism?
Well, I mean, that gets pretty deep into the realm of spirituality. I'm certain that there are people who believe that these people might have been possessed or something similar, right? Like some sort of demonic possession, especially if they didn't show any signs of mental illness or they didn't have any previous issues. Then it's difficult to reconcile these acts with with that prior history, right? Or without a prior history of some concerning behavior. So I can see why somebody would entertain that idea, but again, for me, it's really just it's committing that cardinal sin that I talk about a lot. We've mentioned tons of times on the show of trying to explain one mystery with another. It's not actually solving anything to say they were possessed by a Wendigo spirit or a demon or whatever. There was some sort of curse put on them to turn them into cannibals. Anything you want to say that doesn't solve the mystery, because those don't necessarily exist. At least we don't know that they exist. We can't prove that they exist. And so they don't work as explanations because they are in and of themselves mysteries.
Yeah.
They are unproven phenomena. And so I would be hesitant to use them as an explanation for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, like I said, it is recognized by science, but it's also not. I mean, yes, like there's clearly a psychosis that happens when you randomly decide to cannibalize, whether it be yourself or others. Again, normal people don't just do that. But especially with like these weird one-off cases, right? Like, whereas like Dahmer was calculated, right? He knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. Well, he didn't, because he thought he could make sex slaves by pouring acid in their brains, but um
Yes.
he that he ate them on purpose, right? He knew what he was doing. These cases, these people aren't really, they're not like, I really want to eat somebody, like I just want to know what that's like, or there's a sexual thrill. I mean, they're definitely like in the heat of the moment, like it's not planned.
Right.
um 2 out of the 3 of them are alive, and the 2 out of 3 said, yeah, I definitely didn't plan to do that. um
I
you
would
know
be curious to hear from a mental health professional on their opinion of whether or not the reason was that this is instinctual primate behavior, because we see it in
and
in
drips,
every
yeah.
other primate on the planet in how they
Yeah.
attack each other. You use your teeth because if you're a primate, that is the most dangerous weapon you have if you don't have any other tools at hand.
Yeah, and you get a little snack too, you know.
Sure. Well, it's only natural if you're biting the shit out of something, you're going to swallow some of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Even if the point isn't to eat it, but rather just to do as much damage as possible, you're
right.
still going to inadvertently swallow some, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, blood at least, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, you know, that's. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. I was gonna make it sexual. I'm not gonna do that. We're adults here. We're professionals. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I agree. You know, I would definitely be curious to hear somebody who's more qualified than we are, to have a take on that. I can't say that these things are supernatural. I can't say that Wendigo psychosis is supernatural. I know that term, even though it has a supernatural connotation to it, is not. It is very
No.
much psychological. You know, it's something that is, you know, we can kind of study and see. They're not
Yeah,
saying that these people are Wendigos.
it's just named after folklore.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
all. Like I'm looking at the abstract for an article from the National Library of Medicine right now. And yeah, they definitely don't think that Wendigo psychosis is caused by evil spirits.
No.
I know, spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody who was about to go look up this article. But no, it's they believe there is a psychological root to the or origin to this psychosis, not evil spirits. So
And maybe that psychological root came before the Wendigo. You know, it depends on what you believe, of course.
sure,
But you know, the Wendigo itself, the legend of the Wendigo, um, can have some very real explanations behind it. I mean, famine, when you're fucking starving to death, will make you do weird things. I just read about about those people in that plane crash eating each other.
oh,
Um,
the soccer team.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is neat to revisit, I guess, if you think that kind of thing is neat.
I mean, depends on who you ask. Soccer team
You know,
probably feels differently, but you and I sitting
yeah,
comfortably at home, sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, no, it was super interesting. Like the cannibalism didn't come out until like later. Like it took
Yeah.
them a while to admit to it. No, it's
Well, they did what they had to do,
exactly they
fundamentally.
did, and fucking nobody blames them. And if you do, you're an asshole. Fuck off.
Right.
But the Wendigo lore again, typically that legend takes place in colder climates where you kind of already have a heads up. Like if your harvest is not good that year, like you're fucked like ahead of
Yep.
time, and your wheels are already turning. Like what the fuck are we gonna do? And guess what? You're gonna have family members that die, and you're starving, and you could either sit here with a dead body that's rotting away, or you can eat it, or just in general, just being starving. Look at the Donner Party. Some people still think that it was a crime rather than necessity, that they were killing each other to eat each other. Well, maybe they were, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a necessity. Just your instincts take over when you're in those types of situations, and hopefully somebody like myself or Tobias or Nate or anybody listening to the show will never have to know what that's like.
Right.
you know
Yes.
um or was the Wendigo psychosis, again, did it start there first? Were people having mental breakdowns where they had these weird bouts of cannibalism because of something psychological that happens? I mean, if they're doing drugs, maybe. Or if they're not
Sure.
doing drugs, apparently.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not qualified to speak on issues or to make diagnoses, certainly on
Sure.
issues of mental health or any of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's likely a root um, in psychology for what is happening here, and for the traditional stories surrounding the Wendigo. Frankly, I know that's an unpopular opinion. Sorry, internet, but I'm not a creepypasta guy. So yeah, when it comes to stories of the Wendigo in the first place, I think the vast majority, if not the entirety of that legend, probably has arisen out of real life incidents of mental illness, hunger induced mental illness,
Yeah.
starvation leading to cannibalism, so on and so forth. And we know how mythology is used to explain things,
Hmm.
erroneously or not, usually erroneously, or incorrectly, and so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that you see this wild behavior uh, leading to stories of evil spirits and blaming that because it's I don't think people had the kind of detailed, nuanced understanding of psychology when these stories arose to make those kinds of diagnoses anyway, right?
Well, so here's where I'm going to bring it back full circle. So when we say shit like that person ate that person's face off because of bath salts, isn't that what we're doing? Aren't we doing the same thing, right? That person ate that person's face off because he's a Wendigo. It's the same concept. We are trying to make sense of a horrific situation that we can't possibly understand or comprehend. So therefore, we'll, just as a collective, cling onto something else and just go, it makes sense. Let's just leave it alone. And that's what we're doing when we talk about drugs being the culprit in some of these cases. Now, in some of the cases, they drugs can induce this type of psychosis, but to then go and act like drugs are turning people into cannibals or zombies, or that part's just not really accurate. The people who do the drugs and then end up cannibalizing people. I mean, I hate to say it, but like they got that dog in them. You know what I mean? Like it's already there. Like not that they're walking around being cannibals, just in their head all day, but like it's just the right mix for the chemicals in their brain to pop off and go, I'm gonna eat somebody today. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the cause of the agitated state was, but I think you get anybody in an agitated enough state and they will resort to the sort of primal attack methods that we've seen. Again, like name another natural weapon we have that's better than our teeth.
right.
You can't. We don't have one. That's why, again, chimp attacks, really all primate attacks that you see involve devastating bites. That's just what we do. And the idea that somehow we are so separate from our closest living relatives on this planet that we would just never fucking do that. It's just it's this sort of like human exceptionalism that we see all the time,
Yeah.
where people forget that we're animals.
Yeah.
People forget that all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that if the right situation arises and becomes agitated enough for whatever reason, mental illness, some sort of drug induced state, a psychotic break, whatever, that they will resort to our number one primal method of attack, which is biting people.
Yep.
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They're, like I said, well, and we look at we have one case here where it wasn't drug induced, so like I said, it's just a matter of your chemistry at the end of the day. I mean,
Sure.
you are capable. And none of these were like the primary factor was to eat them, or at least we don't think so. I mean, we can't speak for Rudy Eugene, he's dead, but um I don't know, according to Ronald, he was pissed off about his Bible, right?
Yeah, it's these read like not cannibalistic attacks so much as primal primate attacks to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So, and the same situation, like I said in the very beginning, videos of people just acting completely unhinged. Could they be on drugs? Yeah, they could be, but they might not be also. And even if they are on drugs, typically the type of people that do those types of drugs are riddled with mental health issues. And so I guess I forgot to mention that in the Big Lurch case. It's just so shocking. That case is really tough. But he had a history of struggles with mental illness and and just normal everyday mental illness, like everybody has, and
Yeah.
usually when people do drugs and they do harder and harder drugs, it's because they're trying to quiet that demon within them. And not the demon that, eats people, but just in general, right?
They're
Hypothetical.
self-medicating. Yeah, like we
Yeah.
had touched on that earlier.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I think the moral of the story is, first of all, don't do gas station drugs and test your drugs if you're going to do
You're
drugs.
better than gas station drugs, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
You
There's
are.
better drugs out there. I mean, there are. Find a better drug. But yeah, don't use gas station drugs. I think right now whippets are like making a comeback. That's all that. Don't do them. Just
Yeah.
smoke pot, right? Have a
My
beer
advice,
sometimes. But
if you can, just stick to legal drugs. As long as it's legal somewhere. You can drive down to Illinois from where I live in 20 minutes and be doing legal weed.
yeah, right.
You know?
It's that easy now.
Yeah, like you absolutely can.
But
So
above all that, take care of your mental health.
yes.
Take care of your mental health. And I know it's hard because we live in a society where they don't make it easy to do. But it's so fucking important. Even if you don't self-medicate with gas station drugs, it's still, you're going to live longer. You're going to feel better, right? And you're going to feel better while you live longer, because it's just take care of yourself.
Yes.
How wholesome after we talk about people fucking eating people.
Well, you have to go wholesome after that, because that was fucking rough. Like that's horrible. But it is true. I mean, mental health is important. If you don't think anybody cares about you, you're wrong, because we all have people in our lives who care about us and want to see us do better and be better and take care of ourselves, whether we feel like that all the time or not. So, if you're waiting to hear somebody say they care about you, we care about you. If you need help, get help.
Like that Michael Jordan commercial. Stop it. Get help.
Yes. And then fuck them kids.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, that is just at the end of the day, the moral of the story. If you don't want to be eating people, take care of yourself. That's the best preventative action that you could take, is to take care of your mental health. That's really it. You're not safe otherwise. You're capable. Believe it or not.
Oh yeah, we are all one mental break away from chimp attacking somebody.
That's yep. Sometimes I wake up, I'm like, today's the day.
Yeah, right. Dude, just don't even mess with me. Not today. You're getting the chompers. You're getting bit.
So that's a big part of it. But anyway, with all that being said, welcome to spooky season. It's gonna get weird over here, even weirder than it has been. I love this time of year. I like to be scared. I like, obviously, the strange and unusual, and this is the time of year that it's acceptable to like that stuff. But I also like the disturbing myself. I find it interesting. So we're probably gonna have a couple more rough topics this month, but we're gonna have some fun ones too. So we'll have something for everybody to listen to. That's for sure. Definitely come check out again the Patreon. I can't tell you enough. You want to know what movies we suggest? Let me tell you. You want to know what movies Nate suggests? If you think we're fucking weird, that guy, he's strange.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to offering some more behind the scenes stuff too. I'm always happy to just kind of dump the raw footage from investigations and trips like that. I know just from the past that people have expressed interest in seeing that kind of stuff. I'm happy to share it. So if seeing sort of what's going on behind the scenes in terms of investigations is interesting to you, I'm happy to share what I'm working on. So if you want to get the inside scoop on whatever projects that we're working on, be that a book I'm writing or some documentary appearance or anything like that, joining the Patreon is a great way to do it, because I will absolutely just share whatever in there. So you want to go to patreon.com, of course, and find on Wednesdays we talk weird. What's this specific one for our Patreon. Again, I'm going to look, and it is patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk. That's the one you want. That's the cool one. That's the one that will definitely get you laid.
Definitely get you laid, guaranteed. On top of Tobias's top Halloween movies, he's gonna write up his top tips on how to get laid.
Right. Step 1.
Get married.
Shit. Yeah, right. Step 1. Yeah. Step 1. Find a woman who can tolerate you. Step 2. Marry her.
I was gonna say pray, but
Maybe that's step 1. That's like step 1A, and then step 1B is to find the woman who can tolerate you. Yeah.
Ask the gods, whatever it is you believe in. Be generous with your kindness, and maybe it'll happen. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. I'm sharing reports over there, which I don't normally do. Not that my reports are secret. It's just they've never really had a place. Patreon is the place for them. And you know what else? You know all those weird ads that you heard along the way of this episode, right? You're sitting here and we're fucking talking about people eating people, and then McDonald's is like, come get you a big juicy burger. You don't get those.
Yes, ad-free episodes, my friend.
Ad-free episodes. And early. If I can get them early, this is a weekly show. It's hard to get them early sometimes, but if I can get them early, I will. So I try to get them as early to you guys as possible. But yeah, ad-free. You don't have to listen to that ridiculousness.
Yes. Ad-free episodes, behind-the-scenes investigation footage and reports, stuff you're not going to find anywhere else.
Yeah.
And once we get to 5 Patreon members at that top tier, which, is a reasonable $15 a month, we're going to start doing a monthly book giveaway for everybody in that tier. So, if you're interested in potentially winning a free, awesome paranormal book every month, tell your friends, be like, hey, you join me at this top tier. It will definitely get you laid, and you might win a really kick-ass paranormal book every month. Asterisk will not actually get you laid.
Full disclosure. Read the terms and conditions.
Absolutely. There's a lot of fine print. Mostly about not getting laid.
I mean, it might. Probably not.
I can't say it won't, but I can't say it will. But I will say it will if it means you'll sign up.
It will. Yeah, it definitely will. So. Anyway, Tobias, any final words on any of this?
Take care of yourself and don't eat anybody's face. Keep your house in order. Get help.
Right.
Don't eat faces.
If you really need to eat some lips, it's not the ones up top. Just saying. Well, with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.